Yes, here we go. A very good Friday morning to you, my dear friends. First things first. Did you begin your day by saying, "Thank you, Lord, for another day. Thank you for the gift of life"? Here we are. Pilgrims, good morning. Just a few seconds after 9 o'clock, 1 minute after 9 o'clock to be precise. Thank you so much for joining us for today's edition of Gudday Grenada. Yeah, wait a minute, guys. Wait a minute. There they are, racing to see who's going to be first this morning. We'll tell you who in just a minute. But let me say that I feel on top of the world this morning. 5 days in a row to the beach. Can you believe it? Boy, I'll tell you, for those of you who really know me, you're probably marveling, just as I am, at me. Yeah, went to the beach again this morning. First up this morning, the prize goes to our friend, Peter Bishop. It was almost a three-way dead heat. I mean, dum. Peter pops up first. He didn't even have time to tell us where he was. You know, he was in such a rush to get there first. He forgot to say, "Good morning, I'm in Long Island," or "I'm in Brooklyn," or "I'm in Japan," or wherever. He just said, "Good morning, I'm first." Okay. Second up, Chester. Chester. I hope you're doing fine, sir. Chester is out there way across the pond in Zurich, Switzerland. And John says, "Good morning, Gigi and the rest of the world. The dependencies are leading the pack." Well, not quite this morning, John. You're going to have to try again either on Sunday morning or Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday next week. But nice try. 3 of you folks came in like nose apart. Good to see you guys. So, it's a Friday, the end of a week, and a very short week, actually, for many people. It's just a 3-day work week. And I'm thankful. We've had a few days off. Well, at least I have. A lot of people are still tired. And I know a lot of you are looking forward to this weekend to try and recuperate from your carnival, which I'm hearing from more circles than not was successful, whatever that means. Right? Peter. Peter says he's coming from Long Island, but it's overcast. And he says, "I am kayak." Yeah, we know you're a kayak. We have a lot of kayaks who listen to this program. Some of them we don't necessarily hear from, but we know that they're there, because I hear through the grapevine that they're there. John says, "Peter didn't type as much as me." Yeah, John, you don't know Peter, but Peter would do anything to beat the heck out of you. And he did this morning. So you have to try again next week. One of these days, you know, when we can afford it, we'll sort of come up with a prize for the first to be there. Okay. So yeah, let's take a look at what's cooking here on today's edition. If you've taken a look, which I trust you have, at the rundown, it says Senate President Complimentary. Yaman. The President of the Senate, Chester Humphrey, yesterday at the sitting of the Senate, it's very complimentary about Carnival. Yet, he was peeved. How can you be both? You're going to find out. Hang in there. because I'm going to run you an excerpt from what he had to say in the Senate yesterday. We do have the national report for you this morning. That's there. And then, because our good friend, Brian Pitt, you know, he's not been with us for the last couple of weeks. Brian decided, hey, it's Carnival. I'm a Carnival man. I'm going to take some time off. Yeah, do without me. Well, I actually saw Brian one day this week. I was heading downtown, and he informed me that he will be back. Yeah, he'll be back with us next Friday, 1 week from today. So, in place of Brian this morning, we're going to take a look at an excerpt in the early going of last night's edition of MEK We Chat. John, I imagine that you know all about this because John was with us last night. Scandalous, John, scandalous. Always so good to see you pop up. Anyhow, we had a discussion last night on Grenada's latest loan. Huh? Yeah, man, that's, they spent a lot of time talking about that last night. And we're just going to bring you an excerpt. The program ran 2 hours, whatever, just a little under 2 hours, because we did get started a little bit late last night. But we're going to show you some of what was said last night. And just in case you've got some time on your hands, either today or over the weekend sometime, please go to the GRENADABROADCAST.com website and take a look, because as always, it's archived right there. So you can see the whole thing from start to finish, right? It's also up on YouTube. Yeah, check it out. I see now that, Let's see here. Sherry Wilson is saying good morning. She says she's late. Well, Sherry, it's only 7 minutes after the hour, so you're not that late compared to some people here who show up at about 5 minutes before 10 o'clock. Huh? Whenever you get here, as long as you're here, we're happy. So thank you, Sherry, for being with us. Kipling Francis is saying good morning and sending God's blessings to everybody, which he always does. He says, I remember hearing so much criticism of the teachers not caring about. The teachers not caring about the children's future. Selfish. I'm trying, Kipling, I'm trying. He says, now everyone is boasting of the success achieved in the last exam. Yeah. But no one is apologizing. Bunch of hypocrites. Okay. And hey, speaking about across the Atlantic a few minutes ago, here's another one across the Atlantic. Sean. Hello, Sean. How are things out there in the Azores? By the way, what time is it in the Azores now? You guys are what, about 4 or 5 hours ahead of us? So it would be 1, 2 o'clock? Good to see you as always, Sean. Thank you for chiming in. And John says, the president of the Senate reprimanded a senator on the other side for raising an issue. And then let Senator Steele raise the same issue without any reprimand. Talk about loading the House. You know, John, I did not sit and watch the Senate yesterday. It's become very difficult to watch the sittings, okay? But yesterday, last night, while trying to get my hands on the piece with the president of the Senate, just before he spoke, just before the president spoke, I did see Senator Steele reprimanding a member on the other side. And I'm going to try my best to pull out that clip and run it on Sunday morning. Okay? Fitzroy Adams is saying, good morning, teacher, and the rest of the class. Last night, class was really, really interesting. Yum, man. That's why I told people this morning, Go on back and take a look if you can. It would be really, really worth your time. That was, it was, to some extent, I guess you can say a debate. But, it's just, we have so much fun getting together here on a Thursday evening and just talking about issues that really matter. And you do hear some very strange perspectives on things. Oswin Lewis, hello there, Oswin from Brooklyn. And Donna Joseph is saying she's late today. Donna, like I just said to our other friend there, Sherry Wilson, you're not really late this morning, but try and be here at 9 o'clock, okay? I have a time system here where all our clocks on the computer there, on the iPad here, on my cell phone, everything is set to the national time standard, okay? That's where all the major television networks get their timing from. And it's the same source they use for aviation. So that if you say 9 o'clock, it's 9 o'clock everywhere, okay? Now, that's what I use. And when I do this program, I look at that timer there, and the minute it gets to 9 o'clock, bang, I hit the iPad, and that connects us to Facebook. Now, I'm sure that many of you know by now that even though I hit it at 9 o'clock, it's probably not going to be until about 30 seconds, depending on the speed of the internet, 30, 35, 40 seconds after I hit it, that you actually see me on Facebook. Okay? So, just keep that in mind. Now, anybody else here I haven't said good morning to? No, that's it. Now, let's get down to business here. Whatever your views about the Senate President, Chester Humphrey, he remains a very vocal advocate for decency in the Carnival environment. Not just Carnival. He has hit out at the media a lot and the Calypsonians, okay? And once again, in yesterday's adjournment of the sitting of the Senate, he took the opportunity to make his voice heard. This time on Carnival. Check it out.
I do have some concerns and I want to raise them. One, I'm trying to start a movement, and I don't know how successful I would be, to get our songsters and songstresses who produce songs for consumption of Carnival to begin to move away from the objectivization of our women. Our society faces a serious epidemic of sexual crimes. I know some things are traditional, and in the Calypso art form, the female was fair game. But I think that we have reached a stage in our maturity and development which should reflect evolution. And this perpetual preponderance of objectivization of women and their anatomy overwhelmingly dominates the form. Now, it is true that that has a historic context to it. But it is also true that in those years of yesteryear, there was serious censorship. You wanted to hear something, a pun on women, etc., you had to go to a Calypso tent. I grew up when the famous Mr. Benwood, whatever his name was played, not on radio, not inside of your living rooms, I had the opportunity to give a youngster a lift to participate in one of the Carnival bands. And when I got there, I had the full sight of an army of bare buttocks. I've heard the police, and I think by and large, not by and large, I think we can salute them for the job that they have been doing to keep us safe. But something has got to be done with public indecency, and there was a lot of it during Carnival. In fact, circulating on video chat was the act of a youngster. It was a young boy, could not be more than 8 years of age or thereabout, having a time. And this is becoming more and more open in our society. What is worse is that the corporate community is populating the minds of the people with that filth. In my home, in your home, on public television, you can see the degree of nudity that is pumped into our homes by companies like Flow. I must admit that, from my observation, MTV has become far more circumspect. But certainly Flow, and I'm going to call them out, Flow and GBN, because I can tell you that they are elderly folks led by former member of the House of Representatives, Finsley St. Louis, who had a discussion with me in which we decided that we're going to petition Flow for the filth that they bring into our homes and into our living rooms where children are. And I'm not talking now about access to pornographic sites. I'm talking about the commercialization of social decadence and the objectivization of our women, to the extent which women themselves believe that part of the distinguishing feature of a woman is to expose themselves overtly in public. Something has got to be wrong with that level of thinking of democracy. And I'll be making some recommendation on laws that I think that we can introduce. Because if it is unlawful to run a strip club, then it cannot be lawful for our female folk to behave and carry themselves in the manner in which I have seen in recent vintage. It cannot be. And I know there are people who would cry to the heavens that this is an assault on democratic rights and freedom of expression. But as far as I'm concerned, this is an assault on our best traditions as a people, and a stop must be put to it. There's a clear distinction between culture and open vulgarity. And I think something has got to be done about it. And therefore, I want to make this appeal to our songsters, because there is a crisis facing us. Every assizes, the largest single block of criminal cases before the courts, are sexual offenses. And what will happen over time, as has happened in some countries, the more these things occur, is the less sensitive people become to them, and they become a part of your way of life. When I hear about the murder rates in some of our neighboring countries and the shocking crimes that occur, when I speak to friends in those countries, they are not moved. And the reason why they are not moved is because they have built up an immunity to shock and accept these things as a normal part of living. So it's not normal. And I think as legislators, we should have seen we find ourselves. And here I would appeal to my trade union colleagues to begin the process of rescuing our society from the decadence that has infiltrated it. issues with it which we intercourse with certain cultures to the north, and the fact that lots of our people live there, right? I heard an argument from a legal colleague of mine who was about to go to challenge in a court freedom of speech. And that legal colleague felt that that freedom of speech could allow a citizen to use obscenities before a police officer or before anyone else. And I was really amazed at the degree to which some professions, in the pursuit of individual recognition, and I would say in the pursuit of attracting clients, will take our society down these paths. And these are some of the comments I would wish for us to make. The other thing is, I think, Senator Cox, we need to look, because we are packaging so many events into those 2 days of public holidays. I think we need to look at the possibility, because it happened before, purely by accident, when Carnival was rained out. We held a half-day Carnival on a Saturday. Because the activity now brings in so much money, and it's an opportunity for circulating money, especially for ordinary and working people who vend. There may be some worthiness in considering a Saturday half day to bring your bands which did not parade, your fancy bands which didn't have much of an opportunity to parade so that people can see them, and given the expense. You know, some of these bands, the costumes are $3,500, you know. I was shocked when I learned the price. As a matter of fact, I have to inquire with you, what are the conditions for subventions? Because I can't imagine that a band which sells a costume for $3,500 is receiving free money from the state. I would be rather surprised about that. But it is something that I think one can consider, utilizing the Saturday after Carnival as a half holiday type of activity where people can have some extra time to be able to parade their costumes and to extend the Carnival economic activity, because right now it is lost all, has nothing to do much more with religion and how it was originated before. It's now an economic venture. Of course, it's a display of our creativity and our talent. And I will say more about that on a one-on-one to you, because I believe the state is not doing enough to encourage local talent. There is now a practice of importing costumes. I don't understand why we are allowing our local industry of wire bending and so on to disappear, and why we are facilitating foreign penetration. If we want to give expression to our culture, then I can't understand why it is those assemblies that promote nudity can walk away with hundreds of thousands of dollars, while our traditional mass bands that speak to the core of our culture and what makes us Grenadian are becoming dinosaurs simply because they're not attracting funding in order for them to survive. But that's a private discussion you and I can have on some ideas of how we can maintain our cultural heritage. Because this is what distinguishes us from other people, that we have a unique cultural heritage, which while things progress, but we must also try to preserve, and do not replace our cultural heritage with negative influences that I see now arising. As I've said, I've lived most of my life, and for whatever I have left, I would really want to see Grenada on a more upward and positive path, distinguishing ourselves from the rest by being virtuous. And that I think we can do. We can do it because we sell it. We have the lowest crime rate in the Caribbean. It's one of our features. It is something we should be proud about. It is something we should be thankful to the police officers for, because they provide us with that level of security. We must look at creative ways, and I think that Senator Lewis was making a very important point. We have to find creative ways. If we can't do it basically on salaries, we may be able to do it by the creation of opportunities that will allow them to improve the livelihood of themselves and their families, and to see their career as a great career in the contributions that they make to the security and stability of the state. Honorable members, I thank you for your indulgence on this matter.
All right, there you have it. Senator Chester Humphrey, just about 24 hours ago, yesterday morning at the sitting of the Senate. Now, folks, you know that I'm one who speaks his mind, like it or not. And I know that I'm going to lose some friends this morning, because I'm going to sit here, look you right in the eye, and say that I am in total agreement with Senator Humphrey. Well, almost total. There's one thing that disturbs me. Senator Humphrey is the president of the Senate. I imagine very close to the ruling administration. And he's been ranting and raving about this for a long time. It's not the first piece I've played by Senator Humphrey where he expresses those views. But nothing's been done. Nothing's been done. Senator Humphrey, apart from that, kudos to you, sir. Kudos. Let me share some comments that came in during that piece. John, you noticed that too, eh? John says, nudity. What word was that? Nudity? Yeah. John, I did hear him say nudity, yeah. Alpha Veronica Faray says, Boom Chest speaking on both sides of his mouth as usual. What he fails to realize is that he is no longer relevant. Maybe in the sense that they've done nothing about it, he's irrelevant, maybe. But at least he has the intestinal fortitude to speak up for a lot of people out there who feel that way. Here's a note that's just come in. Ricardo Keynes Douglas says, I've been saying that for years. Yeah, Ricky, you've been on my program. You talked about it over and over and over again. Let's just go back here a little bit. Sharon says, why doesn't this hypocrite shut up? Sharon, I beg to disagree. I'm glad that he spoke out, and I am glad that I can sit here and watch this country and the world in the eyes and say, he made sense. Kipling Francis says, regardless of how one feels about me, Chester Humphrey, what he is saying is so true. And it's sad to see what has become of what used to be so admirable. Shame. I am glad he is speaking out. Wish others will join before it's too late. Facts don't care about emotions. Who vex, vex. Good for you, Kipling. We're in the minority. That's fine. That's fine. I've told you umpteen times over the years as a broadcaster, I never wish to be in the majority. Donna Joseph. Here's another friend I'm going to lose this morning, but I got to be honest. I've given you folks platform. Share your thoughts, to vent. I too have a right to vent, and I am going to exercise it. Like Kipling say, who vex, vex. Donna Joseph says, Mr. Humphrey, it's time you shut up. We live in an evolving world, and And so, if seeing a woman in a costume with her backside cheeks is showing, with her backside cheeks is showing, you should turn and walk away. A woman showing herself on the street in a swimsuit is no damn different when she's on the beach. We live in a democratic and free nation, and so you cannot tell no woman what she should wear or not wear. You have more things for you to address in this country. For example, the corruption in which you are a part of where this regime is, in which you are a part and parcel, and raping this country's taxpayers. Some of what you're saying there is true, Donna, but I beg to disagree with you on the other part. Let me scroll back here now. Bernard Gilbert saying, good morning. Fitzroy Adams says, Chester, you raised some good points, but my question to you, how you cannot see the wrong things that are happening in Grenada? That's the point I'm making. There's a lot of crap going on in this place. At least this man had the balls to speak out about something. Huh? A lot of you won't. Ricardo Kings Douglas says, and on your program, and I swear I will not come back and talk the same old talk. Okay, Ricky? Peter Bishop says, a trade unionist who sat there and said nothing about the pension matter, but on Carnival is the morality police. I agreed with him saying on those issues, but where is the outcry on PhoneGate? Just asking. Pedro, correct. There are issues, other issues that need to be vented at the level he vented on Carnival. Yeah, lots. I agree. But to those who knock Chester because he spoke about the flagrant nudity that's taking place in this place, you're wrong. At least that's my opinion. You're wrong. I'm sure you think you're right. That's fine. You have your views, I have mine. I respect yours. I give you a chance to vent them. Moi, I have just vented mine. Ricardo Kings Douglas says, swimsuits are one thing, but G-strings and Band-Aids that barely cover their private parts has nothing to do with women doing their own thing. It's about respect and dignity of the women themselves, respecting themselves. Thank you, Ricky. Coylan Nash says, Chester Humphrey, you're talking about carnival years. You're talking about Carnival years, this thing going on. What about all the corruption that's taking place in your face and you're not saying anything? Yay. Amen. I agree with you there too. Kipling says, I'm not surprised people will criticize me. Me, Chester. Kipling, I guess you meant Mr. Chester, okay? But God came to save us, and we kill him. There's a time for everything. Ricardo Kings Douglas says, please, what I saw some women and men doing this carnival was appalling. Yeah, Ricky, I stayed indoors for Carnival, never went out, so I can't tell you what I saw on the streets. I can tell you what I saw on television. It was repulsive, Ricky, repulsive. And if that's the way some of you would like to see this country go, I feel sorry for you. I feel sorry. You need to reassess where you are. I know where I am. I know. Okay. I think that's it. Yeah. Let me see here. Yeah, okay. Coming up next, the National Report.
You don't know how many hurricanes will be coming this season, so you need to be prepared. At Hubbard's Hardware and Building Supply Departments and Food Fair Supermarkets, everything from canned foods, flashlights and batteries, to plywood, tarpaulin, lanterns, roof repair kits, water tanks, etc. are available. For over 90 years, we've helped you prepare for and recover from storms. Hubbard's Hardware, Food Fair Supermarkets, and the Grenadian General Insurance, an integral part of your hurricane preparedness plan.
Studying too hard about back-to-school expenses? Co-op Bank is making back to school as easy as 1, 2, 3. Enjoy competitive interest rates, affordable monthly payments, speedy decisions on applications. Come in and apply today.
Welcome home.
We are honored to partner with the Grenada Schools, Inc., the Ministry of Education, and the Caliste Government School in providing this library. GCPI program put $120,000 or 66% of the cost of the library. But it's not an investment that is intended to bring a financial return. It is an investment in the human capital of our youth in Grenada.
GRENLEC has shown us their seriousness about partnership, their seriousness about education, and their seriousness about nation building. That local partnership tells our major donors that Grenada is interested.
We have got a big vision at Grenada Schools. We believe that what we can do is, through literacy, have the most literate country in the Caribbean. We are very happy that you've got this gift from ourselves and from GRENLEC.
We see this library as a unique and valuable resource. One of the best things about receiving this library is that it honors and recognizes the efforts and contributions of a company like GRENLEC and Grenada Schools Incorporated.
Since 1994, GRENLEC shareholders have invested over $22 million. This has been invested in the communities throughout Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. We hope this library will serve the students and school well for many years to come.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try their sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you. All right. Just before I get to the next segment, let me share some of the comments you folks have been posting here. I hope I'm pronouncing this person's name right. Rhett, R-H-E-T-T. Rhett Doppel says, true freedom is not used to indulge in negative, degrading, addictive behavior. The free do what is best and right. Thank you, Ms. Doppler. Ricardo Keynes Douglas says, and please do not say it's my culture. Yeah, Ricky, that's the favorite phrase. It's we culture, not mine. And I born here. John says, I watched the viewing numbers drop as soon as the NNP report came on. Yeah, John, it happens. I keep telling you guys it happens, but thank you so much for sticking around. Kipling Francis says, congratulations, Mr. Ricardo. I admire you, sir, for all that you're doing. Thank you. And Alpha Veronica Ferre says, Senator Humphrey had nothing to say about Old Mass. Shouldn't that aspect of Carnival be promoted? How convenient, not one word about the decline in Old Mass. Is it because it speaks to the wrongdoings taking place in the country, in which he has conveniently turned a blind eye to? Okay, Alpha. Thank you very much, Alpha Veronica. All right, folks, now, where are we? Where are we? Here we are. Much of last night's edition of MEK We Chat focused on the deepening of Grenada's public debt. I'm not able to bring you all of it this morning, but I have pulled out the early going of that discussion for your enlightenment. I have no doubt that it will raise questions in your mind and also provide speculation as to why permission for this loan was sought at the time that it was. Here are the usual suspects. MEK We Chat.
In fact, let me just read for you, if I could pull it up quickly, what the IMF said about Grenada's debt. It said Grenada's debt sustainability outlook has continued to improve, but the external risk rating remains, quote, in debt distress. So, really and truly, Grenada's gross public debt, they say it's on a downward trajectory. But if that is true, you have to ask yourself, why then is the government going back into borrowing so much money? Because $180 million is a lot of money.
That's a lot of money, yeah.
A lot of money.
I don't get it
And
either. And who's going to be paying this back?
as usual, the taxpayer,
100 and how much million?
118.
18.
And budget support, this is additional, this is outside of the budget.
But you're only talking money here.
Lot of money.
That's small money, man.
Yeah? This is not Dominica where you guys talk in billions, because but you have to tell us more about that one. For us down in these islands down here, that is
Yeah, but I was wondering, did he explain what area he need the money for? What area he need to spend this money for?
areas, and I just for some reason couldn't get the documentation.
Oh,
Well, it's
right.
not because of the problems I've been having anyway.
Oh, right.
But yes, they have outlined some of the areas, and that's why I know George spoke to some people, I think, on Sunday, and that's why I was hoping that George would give us some support here.
Oh.
George is clearly otherwise preoccupied with something else.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow
Yeah.
you cut it though, I still think that if you have a budget in place, and for you to come back and say you need another $118 million, a lot of money.
Yeah.
I don't
It's
care
a
how
that's a lot of although you cut it, it's a lot of money. And
a lot of
and the
money.
reality, I mean, there's nothing here honestly to justify that or to generate the income, the type of income to even begin to
That's
repay that
That's
kind
what
of
I was
debt.
thinking. Because when you think about how many people employed in the country at the moment who are paying taxes, I don't know how that can justify that amount of money. I don't know how they're going to, we wouldn't be able to pay that money back anyway.
Well, it has to,
That's how.
no matter how you cut it, it has to be paid back. That's the key. It has to be paid back. And one of the issues that is always at stake in this is the debt to GDP ratio, meaning how much does your debt relate to how much you're earning? Because there is this in most of these islands, the IMF looks at 60% of your GDP should be, if you have debt that relates to that, it's fine. That's what they say, although they want it to come down, but they have set that as a kind of a benchmark. Grenada coming out of its own fiscal situation where it got past the 100% point at one stage, is set to be on a downward trajectory. But how does this new information relate to that? The IMF says growth has remained strong, reflecting external tailwinds and the fruits of past reforms. The outlook is promising, but is subject to downside risks. The focus of policy should shift towards making growth more sustainable. And I'm reading from the IMF Article 4 2019 report. So it should shift towards making growth more sustainable, resilient, and inclusive. fiscal policy should balance further progress in debt reduction against a gradual rise of well-earned fiscal space to close the country's infrastructure and resilience gaps, in tandem with capacity and efficiency improvement to bolster the impact on growth. So the IMF is saying, okay, fine, you're moving in the right direction, yes, but one of the things we want you to pay attention to is keeping your debt down. So I would like really
Exactly.
hear how how you get that. But I think is this money coming from the World Bank?
That's what I was wondering. I mean,
Yeah, I think this is money coming from the World Bank, which in a sense
I
is probably the best thing that is happening in the sense that if it's coming from the World Bank, it means that the interest rates are lower. Because what a lot of Caribbean governments have done in recent time is to go to the commercial banks and borrow, which means
right.
that the interest rates on the payment is high. So if this is from the World Bank, it's not a bad thing in that regard if it's debt. But it's debt. And as I say, um, obviously the government has met the financial responsibility legislation because other than that they would not be able to borrow. But it does beg the question, what went so wrong with the last budget? Why are we here?
Well, can
But
I ask some questions?
Yes,
mhm.
sure.
What is the budget for 2019 in Grenada? I don't know if anybody knows the answer to that.
I have to find that.
No.
I have all the
Um,
numbers up there, but I had to take them down when I was having
does
trouble.
anybody know the reason for this approach?
I think do I look as
Frozen.
though he got
Guys may be having
Frozen.
some problem there this evening. I can tell that.
yeah.
It sounds more like it is an issue of the internet.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Dwight is frozen. Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, I actually have the budget statement, but not
Okay, so I was just able to pull.
have it.
No, I don't. Let me see. Hold on a minute. Hold on. Let me see. Hmm. Okay, so let me see. I'm trying to see if I can pull some document. Dwyer seems to be having some problems, some documentation here.
Mm-hmm.
Supplementary
That
budget.
dropped off, yeah.
Supplementary appropriate was also tabled for an amount.
What I do know about the budget was in the billions. That much I know. Like,
Yeah,
but I had to clear my deck when I was having a problem a while ago.
yeah. I'm kind of like scrolling through here to see if I can find anything, but I'm not seeing anything because there was that email that came out sort of yeah, but I don't have that figure at hand.
Mhm. I have the whole budget speech, but
I
the
don't
whole
have it.
question of going through it right now
Yeah.
is not
Hmm.
let me see if I could pull back these stuff into budget presentations. Um,
I have a question in the meantime.
yeah, go ahead.
The most budgets are driven by a plan, a strategy. Is there a plan that is proposed that one could say, okay, if that plan is proceeded with, you're going to generate the output and the product that would allow for a matter like this to be handled comfortably. Um, what is the plan? Is there a plan in the budget? Is there a plan laid out for sector agriculture to produce to grow from this level to that, tourism to grow by this number? You know, a budget is not just the numbers. It is the numbers as they relate to the plan that is proposed by the government for for keeping the economy going or getting the economy moving. What's the plan?
And you're absolutely right in that regard. I think also what has caught a lot of us out is that this all came like on the weekend.
Exactly.
there has not been much discussions about this particular aspect. And it's interesting that the government chose that time um, to do it because the 2019 budget was built on building resilience, advancing social development, and transforming our economy. That's the rubric on which the budget for 2019 was built.
Yes.
I'm still trying to find the actual figure of the budget. Wait.
Yeah. I think Jerry made a good
Like,
point about the time that this was released on Friday when everybody was distracted and it's likely to get lost in the weekend news cycle kind of stuff. You know, nobody's paying
It was not just
attention.
the weekend news cycle, because sometimes we do that as publicists in the weekend news cycle, but it
Hmm.
was Carnival, which just makes it even more.
Exactly. Exactly. Nobody who was paying attention. First off, you know, most people don't pay attention to budgets. And you do something like that makes it even worse. They're already distracted by Carnival, so they don't give, you know, they
Carnival,
don't care.
Carnival is on now?
No, Carnival is done.
Oh, it's done. Okay.
It's done, but I guess between yesterday and today, they're too tired to listen to the budget to the debate.
Hmm.
No,
So
but
because
there's no further debate. I mean, remember
right.
that everything was done and passed in the House on Friday, so there's no further debate on this matter. This is a done
Oh,
deal.
really?
All right. Let me read from the Prime Minister's budget statement 2019. Mr. Speaker, public debt as a ratio of GDP has progressively declined in the past 5 years, declining from 188% of GDP in 2013 to an estimated 62.7% by the end of 2080. It is projected to further reduce to 55% of GDP by the end of 2020, surpassing the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank's target of 60%, 10 years ahead of the 2030 decline. Mr. Speaker, it is important for the nation to appreciate the process undertaken to project the debt numbers. The Ministry of Finance conducted a debt sustainability analysis, which determined the government's ability to sustain its current debt levels. This analysis then used to inform the medium-term debt management strategy that is laid before this Honorable House. Mr. Speaker, the 2018 budget presented was historic because for the first time, a debt management strategy was laid in our Parliament. Mr. Speaker, I'm extremely happy to report that all of our debt management activity for the past year was consistent with the medium-term debt management strategy 2018 to 2019. I guess if you read all of this, the Prime Minister say, listen, we have the space to borrow.
No, but he's only talking about one side of the ledger there, Jerry, which is the payment side, the debt
I hear
service
you.
side. What I'm interested in, I don't know if this was where Dwyer was going. I see Dwyer's back. What's about the other side of the ledger? You know, the investment side. I mean, and the growth side, and the rate
Okay.
of
Let me,
return
let me
side.
give you the summary.
That
The summary.
that's the only way we can have a really intelligent discussion.
Right. Let me give you the summaries as were given, right? The current revenues of 780.4 million. The current expenditure was 637.8 million. So right away, revenues exceed expenditure.
Yeah.
The current account surplus is 142.7 million. Capital expenditure is 196.4 million. The primary surplus after grants, 201.9 million. Overall surplus after grants, 129.9 million. And principal repayment amortizations is 299.8 million. The point being, if you look at these numbers, if you have that surplus, why did you really need to go towards a loan?
Well, that's the reason for the inquiry about where the revenue comes from. What
Exactly.
generated the surplus? Was it, for instance, the sale of passports, the sale of yams, the sale of, processed items? Was it tourism arrivals and tourism spending increasing per guest, etc.? In other words, macro data, big numbers, large numbers that cover, everything, tend to be meaningless unless really dissected against what contributes to those numbers. Even debt service. Where did you sacrifice investment in certain critical areas of your economy in order to service your debt? which is what the IMF would probably drive you to do. You say, oh, you need to up your debt service. That means cutting back on education, cutting back on healthcare, and so on. What? So that's where the debate should be engaged, but it needs to be based on the availability of that kind of information.
That's what I'm thinking.
Absolutely.
Agreed, but that kind of information is not readily available.
That's
Really?
it.
Really?
That information wasn't disclosed to the public. It just
Jerry. Jerry.
Yes, go ahead.
I fell out. I'm sorry about that.
Good to have you back in.
Thank you. Did you find out what the $118 million or whatever it is intended to do?
We've been trying to find.
The problem
Yeah.
is that
Okay.
this happened on Friday. And
I understand, but let me ask us. Okay, go ahead.
Sorry. To make the point. This happened on Friday, and from Friday till yesterday, basically it was Carnival. So there hasn't been enough time to really have sufficient discussion and further explanation on this matter. I think that's really what happened.
Yeah, and apparently, based on what I saw here, there seems to be nobody seems to know what exactly that $180,000 is for.
Million.
Parliament,
Million, yeah.
And it's not reported for sure.
Well, that will come to the surface. People will find out what that money is for. Now, let me just suggest something here. You can have money and still borrow because the money you have might be generating you interest or other returns that makes it prudent for you to leave that money where it is and go and borrow money to do something else. The question is, what is that other thing? Those numbers you gave there from the budget with the primary surplus and things like that, those are very good sounding details.
Yeah.
They sound very good. And it's good to have backup money for resiliency and other contingencies and so forth. But also, if you find yourself, you see some governments around here like to boast about their primary surpluses, about how well they are running the economies. When we know, and I'm not pointing a finger at Grenada, when we know that there are so many deficiencies in the core areas of need, energy, education, health, food safety, water safety, the environment, and so forth. And then they go and borrow money, and that money is put into a perversely prioritized system, which it is, it's perverse. If the priorities are not right, it's perverse. And so it leads me to ask you a cynical question. How far out are we from elections in Grenada?
Not close.
Not close. So this can't be part of the election exercise, like they have to do roads and so.
Okay, I find it. I find the information.
Okay.
The 118 million is borrowed from the World Bank to support the CASIP project and other initiatives.
The what project?
The CASIP. Now, CASIP is a project where they're trying to digitize and transform the public service so that we move towards a more digital environment.
E-government.
Yeah.
That's going to cost $118 million?
Well, it says, I'm reading. I'm just trying to pick this stuff up as we go. Minister Bowen says the World Bank and various ministries have looked at the projects under CASIP, which include the digitization and transformation of public service, and they are ready to move forward once authorization is given. So we already have the loan agreement, but in order to access the funds, we cannot borrow more than what was approved previously, so we must come back here, and we are coming back under this loan authorization resolution to ensure that we have permission to accept $3 more billion.
Billion?
That is what I'm reading here.
Billion, you said,
I'll tell you what I'm reading here.
I can't figure that one out.
No.
Another 1.3. Hold on. Let probably read from the top of the article because I was trying to It's a long article. It might not be
Mhm.
the best.
Anyway, my read of it is I wouldn't condemn just off the top a situation
No,
like
no, and
this.
I don't mean it to be a condemnation. What I
No,
would
and I'm
like
not suggesting you
is
are.
explanation.
Yes, yeah. And I do believe that with an active media, and I don't know how active the opposition is in Grenada and regionally, then explanations will be extracted and discussions will take place on this, because $118 million is a significant sum of money.
But if it's going towards technology, as it says here, I'm reading this here, then I could understand why it's significant. Coming from the World Bank, I suspect also that it's monies that is coming with fairly minimal interest repayment. You just wondered why it was hustled through on a day like Friday. It just leaves questions there.
Yeah, I think, yeah, the question is what exactly are they trying to hide?
Six
Well, I
hundred
mean,
dollars, 600,000 will support the work of the Integrity Commission. We are topping up the NIS pension funds to ensure that these retirees receive at least 70% of their last salary. In other words, Mr. Speaker, we don't have a dispute on pension. What we have a dispute is what is being introduced as gratuity. So I know the big issue that this government has had has been the pension issue, which has had particularly teachers out. So the government saying, hey, we're doing something about that with some of this money. 1 million
Exactly.
for the procurement of pharmaceuticals is also budgeted for, according to Dr. Mitchell, particularly for the treatment of cancer and kidney diseases.
that's included in the
In the
100.
180?
Well, I can
No,
only say that. As I say, I'm just doing all of this as we go. 1.3
Right.
million was listed as expenditure in salaries for nurses.
so it's a kind of a it's a plugging holes kind of amount figure. I
Yeah,
mean,
clearly.
uh,
Outside of the CASIC
facility.
project, which obviously take up the majority of the funding, these are the other things that have been brought on board. Support
Yeah.
for the Integrity Commission, support for the pension funding, support for pharmaceuticals, support for nurses' salaries. Interesting, interesting.
Um,
Anyway,
So maybe what
sorry,
we could do is just say hi to those of our listeners who are joining us on social media and get some of their comments in.
please.
Yes. So hi, John Kennison is here. He's saying good night. And let's see. He said, in reference to the 9 million, it's is allocated. So what's the rest for?
It's allocated to.
He didn't. Yeah, I'm not sure, but he said only 9 million is allocated. So what's the rest for?
I just said it. The
yeah, yeah.
9.9 seems to be allocated to the question of pension support, pharmaceutical support,
Right.
etc. But the majority of the fund seems to be for the CASIC project. That's what I'm reading from this.
Okay. And
Um,
then.
Go ahead.
Okay. No, and then he went on to say, I listened to Senator Steele trying to explain um, it badly on the radio today. Laughing out loud. Yeah. And
So
then
they had a cabinet briefing today.
yeah, there was
Ah,
yeah, they were in session today. There was some debate going on in Parliament today. Because when I was
okay.
sailing through town, I saw it on television, but I didn't stop to listen. Kiblen Francis says there does not need to be a reason to borrow money. He is the boss, and he knows he won't be around to pay it back. He will let he will let me win to clean up the mess again. So that's from Kipling, and then John Kinnison comes back and says, "It amazes me how we always do better than the projected figures, and then you want to go and borrow."
And that is part of the reason why. But then, as Dwyer said it, that maybe you leave the surplus because the surplus is always a good thing, especially when people like the IMF wander around and you borrow against it.
But Jerry,
Mhm.
let me clarify. Let me give it some perspective. If you have substantial surpluses consistently, unless you are disbursing funds and deploying resources in the direction of the fundamental developmental needs of the country and its people, then you're holding on to too much money, and it means you must reduce taxes. Okay? So this is an aspect of this discussion that is required as more information comes forward, because all of these pretty surpluses and primary surpluses and that sort of thing need
And
to
they're
be discussed.
significant monies, you know.
Well, $200 million primary surplus.
Yes, significant money.
I mean, if then you go and look at your debt servicing and see what your actual surplus is. I am sure it will still be significant.
Alrighty. Remember, that was not live. That was an excerpt from the program MEK We Chat, which we did last night. And by the way, John, I noticed you're pointing out there that the audio is low. John, you were with us last night. You might recall that we were having some issues with Jerry's microphone. Jerry was out there in St. Vincent, and we couldn't hear him as well as we were hearing the others. Anyway, now, during that piece, oh, by the way, John also went on to say here, regarding this loan that was approved on Friday, on Thursday, yesterday, he said these ministers will be drawing their gold-plated pensions and living in Brooklyn when these loans need to be repaid. Ain't life a bummer, huh? Debbie Mason says, if I go to the bank for my small business loan, I know that if they figure that my ratio is all wrong, I ain't getting, yeah, Debbie. Thanks, Debbie. Okay, now, you folks are still harping on this issue with Chester Humphrey, and I want to share a couple more comments that came in while you were watching the loan issue. Elton Sylvester says, Mr. Grant, I do agree with Miss Joseph and others. Not about shutting up. Miss Joseph was telling Chester to shut up. But he doesn't agree with that. He says, but how come he never spoke of all the wrongs taking place in Grenada, in which he was a part of the majority over the years? Good question, Elton. Good question. What they had done to the people of Grenada is far worse and more degrading to Grenada than how the people dress. That doesn't say the Carnival dress code doesn't need regulating. So says Elton. Valid points, Elton. Right on. Anthony DeRiggs says, Carnival is going the Brazil way. There was a time when creativity played a big part in Carnival. Now, a lot of emphasis is on how close to nakedness one can get. Some of the songs are vulgar. Yes, it existed in the past, but it is getting worse. John, Anthony, you know something? Sunday morning, some of these people were in church. I rest my case. Let's see here. Benedict Cador says, I would like to hear a comparison of the interest rates. And Kipling says, of what good is the opposition when they do not have to vote to stop any bill from becoming law? Yes, they may oppose, rightly so, They may be right. But what else can they do? It's time to stop fooling ourselves. There is no democracy in this kind of system. Government controls both houses. Valid, Kipling, valid. And then John says, the loan debate was conveniently timed around Carnival time. Yeah, man. A lot of people noticed that. It's one of the things that came up last night. All righty, folks. Let me see here. Time to pull the curtain down. Time to pull the curtain down. Just before we do, and just before I wish you a very, very pleasant weekend, let me share with you a parting word from the Holy Scriptures. Luke chapter 6, 20 to 26. Looking at his disciples, he said, "Blessed are you who are poor, for yours is the kingdom of God. Blessed are you who hunger now, for you will be satisfied. Blessed are you who weep now, for you will laugh. Blessed are you when people hate you, when they exclude you and insult you and reject your name as evil because of the Son of Man. Rejoice in that day and leap for joy, because great is your reward in heaven. For that is how their ancestors treated the prophets. But woe to you who are rich, for you have already received your comfort. Woe to you who are now well fed, for you will go hungry. Woe to you who laugh now, for you will mourn and weep. Woe to you when everyone speaks well of you, for that is how their ancestors treated the false prophets." Luke chapter 6, 20 to 26. On that note, my dear friends, this is where Georgie Porgy is going to pull the curtain down. You have yourselves a great post-Carnival weekend. Yeah? Let's get together again on Sunday morning. I'm sure we're going to be taking a look at what went on in the Senate yesterday and some other stuff as well. And then, of course, we look forward to seeing you on Monday morning and every day next week, if possible. Thank you so much, friends. May the good Lord bless and keep you.